One of the ways that Node implements its non-blocking I/O that's, sort of part of the tagline is through the use of streams. And today we're going to look at how we can use streams in Express. So just for a quick stream demo for anyone that's not familiar with them, we'll use the FS or file system module that's built into Node. And then we're going to reference our input file, which is just our users.json that we've been using here in the app. And then we're going to be writing to a file called out.json, which you can see over here is just empty. And so the first thing we need to do is create a read stream. So we're going to say fs.create read stream, and we're going to pass it that input file. So that's going to be a readable stream. It can pull data into it. The next thing we'll do is we'll create a write stream. And so that's a stream that can have data written to it. Now, the way that we tie these two things together is by using the pipe method. So we're going to say readable, take your data and pipe it into that writable stream. So read it in, push it out. So now if we go to the terminal and run this streams.js file, you can see that it does in fact populate our out.json file. We can run it again just so you can see it's very quick, and it is, it's transferring all of the data to that new file. So how does this apply to a server? Well, we have this route that we've defined earlier of /data/username, where we then pull in the user's data and then write it out as JSON to the browser. But if we look at this get user function in our helpers file, we can see that it's actually using a blocking operation. fs.readFileSync means that it's a synchronous call, which means we don't have to, define and use a callback, but that also means that nothing else can happen while that read operation is happening. So that's going to halt everything else in the node process since it's single threaded. And so doing something like that in a server is usually not a good idea. We did it for convenience, but in a server that may have a lot of users connecting, that's going to reduce the amount of load that your server can handle. So a better way to do this is to use streams. So we're going to go and modify this route handler, and we're going to get rid of the call to that blocking function, and we're just going to create another readable stream. So fs.createReadStream. In this case, we're just going to construct a path to the file using that username that's in the URL. So go into the users directory, add the username itself to the .json extension, and there we have a readable stream of that JSON file. Now, before we were writing to an output file, but that's not what we need to do this time. This time we need to send it back to the browser, and the way that we do that is we can actually just pipe directly to the response object. So Express has made the response object writable, and we can pipe to it just like we would that write stream to the file. And so if we save that and go refresh, you can see we do still get the same data out. We even get it nicely formatted because it's just pulling the data, raw, not changing anything. So the fact that it's formatted in the file reflects in the browser. And so there in, 1 to 2 lines of code, we have a route that no longer blocks and pipes the same information to the browser. Now that's a very simple and straightforward use case, but you can also do some other really cool things with other stream libraries. So if we go and install a package called JSON Stream, that's going to let us do some more interesting things. So we'll go ahead and we'll get rid of this helper since we're not using it anymore, and we will require that JSON Stream package that we just installed. Then we're going to come down here and define a new route, and we'll just call this one /users/by, and then we'll start with gender. So what we can do now, we'll create a readable stream that is just using that users.json again. So we're going to read in that file, and then we're going to pipe that file to this JSON stream, and we're going to call the .parse method, and we're going to pass it a star, which just means read in everything in the file. JSON stream allows you to filter the results if you want, but we're going to read in everything from the file, and essentially JSON stream parses things into objects before it calls your callback. So our callback function here is going to get a user object. So each user object in that file will be passed to this. And let's go ahead and we'll grab that gender URL parameter, and we're actually going to filter the results here by gender. So we'll say if user.gender is equal to the gender that was, passed in to the URL, then we'll go ahead and return that user. If we don't return that user, we're essentially just filtering it out of our results. We're dealing with objects right now, and so we need to turn it back into a string because that's what we need to pipe to the browser. So we're going to call pipe again, and then we're going to call it JSON stream.stringify, and we're going to pass in some strings here, and those are just sort of telling JSON stream how to format the output string. And then finally, we'll just pipe it back to our response like we did before. So we now have this new route that's going to pull a URL variable. It's going to read in this file. It's going to send it through our filter function, push it back to a string, and then send it out to the browser. So if we go ahead and start our dev server back up and go back to the browser, we can check out this new URL. So /users/by/female, and you can see we get all of our female users back. And we'll change it to male just to show, make sure that it's working. And it is, in fact, giving us back all the male users in that case. Now, the data's not quite fitting in there, and I also want to show, some more of the flexibility that this gives you. So let's go back to the file, and maybe we're not interested in the whole user coming back, and we just want the name. So if we say return user.name, then we can send that back, and we will just get the name sub-object of each user back to the browser. And so here in about 4 lines of code, we've created a dynamic, non-blocking route that allows us to parse and send back data as we wish.